Hey, this week we're talking about the laryngeal source. So this is when we're kind of getting into the nitty gritty of what's actually going on right in here. Now that we've got kind of the basics of all of our speech science, we've also talked about um, tubes and we've introduced perturbation theory a little bit. Now we're actually going to talk about what's going on in the larynx. So, what we're going to do this week, there's a few different things. The first thing we're going to do is estimate the characteristics of the laryngeal source using speech signals and then relate those to healthy and disordered voice qualities. Um, so, essentially, what that means is we're just going to look at what's going on in the voice. We're going to use computer-based measures or computational-based measures. We can do it either way, and decide if a voice has qualities that are normal or somewhat disordered. Second, we're going to learn about the laryngeal source. So you'll be able to describe what the laryngeal source is and then explain the techniques that we use to recover the laryngeal source. We'll also estimate the frequency domain representation of the laryngeal source using time domain representations of speech signals. So essentially, we're going to derive what's going on at the laryngeal source by just using speech signals. We're going to summarize acoustic measures of laryngeal source based on time and frequency domain representations. So basically, how are we measuring what's going on in the laryngeal source, and how do those relate to the different domains that we've talked about in the previous 2 weeks. We're going to compute acoustic measures of the laryngeal source. So there's more of that math that some of you worry about, but it's not that hard. It's if you've been okay with the math we've done so far, it's kind of along the same lines, so you'll be just fine. Then we're going to evaluate the laryngeal source signals and relate them to voice quality using time and frequency domain representation. So that goes along with the very first point that we talked about. We're looking at different measures that we're taking in different ways in time or frequency, and then relating those to overall voice health. And then lastly, we're going to compute acoustic laryngeal source measures with Pratt and interpret voice quality. So teach you how to do the mathematical part just by hand, but there's no way that in a clinical setting you're going to sit around and do it by hand. So I'll teach you how to do it with Pratt, and this is something that you could do then in the clinic. So you could use a microphone to take a speech sample. You could even use your phone to take a speech sample, and then you could use Pratt to estimate these measures of voice health and get kind of an idea of what might be going on with your client's overall voice health and other issues that they might have. All right, so that's it for the overview, and I will see you soon to talk about this first part here. Actually, I've done that wrong. It should be the second part. Sorry. I'll see you soon.